So we got Last Night in Soho. Now, guys, I just want to say I went into this movie blind. I didn't know the director of it, but the director of Edgar Wright, he also did the two movies that I recently watched from him was Scott Pilgrim versus the World as well as Baby Driver. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really got connected with this story and a little bit emotional, and I can explain my reasonings why, but it's funny because Scott Pilgrim versus the World, director by Edgar Wright, which directed this film, came out in 2010, 2011. I did not see it until this year, which I did a review on my channel if you want to check it out. I don't know, in 2010, I was in a relationship, so I wasn't really going to the movies. It was different back. But Scott Pilgrim versus the World, when I saw it this year, as well as Baby Driver, those are the only two films that I've seen from him that I've rewatched at least 3 times. And guess what? After watching this 3 times, I was like, who's the director of this? Edgar Wright. So I don't know if that says anything about me or about his film style. I don't know, guys. To be honest, I'm very gonna get a little bit emotional, like talking about this and why I'm reviewing this like in a different way. But I just want to let you know where I'm coming from. So Last Night in Soho can be interpreted in 2 different ways. Last night meaning the last 12 hours, like last night, or it could be the last night, like definitely last night, like The Last Jedi, weird reference, but no more after that. One night can definitely change your world. And The Night in Soho, which takes place in London, and they actually filmed in London. If you look at the behind the scenes, they actually did film in London, so I thought that was pretty cool. So before we get into the if this is worth it in Dolby, because it wasn't in IMAX and you can still watch it regular format, this is the baseline of the story because it'll help with Dolby part. This is a kind of psychological thriller, romantic movie set in the 1960s as well as the modern era of London, but it also has our horror elements to it and also things of like schizophrenia, the soundtrack, and the lights. So this is a visual soundtrack movie. Is this worth it going in Dolby? I want to be honest with you guys, that really depends on your taste. So to be honest with you, yes, the saturation and lights, blue, white, red, green, and black are very used distinctively, as well as the 1960s visions when they do go back in time, as well as the soundtrack. In the beginning of the movie, it's established that this is going to be a different type of film based on the music itself. So if you don't like 1960s, like the vibe, the crazy aesthetic, the smoking, the drinking, the lights, the shows, the dresses, and as well accompanied with the soundtrack, then to be honest with you, you probably will need it to go see it in Dolby, because Dolby is the deeper blacks, better Atmos experience in the seats. But if the trailer caught your attention enough to check this movie out, but you don't necessarily like the 1960s or like the music of the soundtrack, then just go regular. But for those of us that are interested in like that creepy vibe, that psychological nightlife, the sounds, the sexiness, the dating, the romance, all that cool stuff, as well as the soundtrack, then yeah, Dolby is the way to go. This is based on a true story, and this really happened back in the day. Like, it's really scary to see that. So Ellie, played by Thomasin McKenzie, which I thought was phenomenal in this role. The last time I saw her, now she's taking the lead on this role. I actually did the movie review on this channel. Oh, so if you go back on my channel, you can see Thomasin McKenzie in that movie. And I'm so happy that months later, she gets a very, like, another role to advance her career, which to me, that was really breathtaking to see. So Ellie, she lives in a rural area, like in the countryside. She wants to travel to London. Well, she does travel to London to study London College of Fashion. And by the way, Ellie, I love her raspy, like, voice or her accent to it. She's like, there was a guy. She's like, when I become a big fashion designer, well, duh. I really like that as a guy. Like, I thought that was kind of sexy because I was like, wow, this girl can really play it off. And I really love, like, her accent, the way she is. She's like a normal, every type of girl that has ambitions, which I really love. Like, she's not stuck up. Like, you know, to me, that's attractive. And not that the actress is attractive, like, she is cute. But it also established in the beginning that she has, like, the sixth sense power, the use of mirrors. So she can see things, she can feel things. However, power will manifest and will become very important later down the road. So she travels to London to become a fashion designer. She goes to the London School of Fashion. And when she gets there, things don't go as well as she planned it does. What do I mean by that? So she gets established. She finds a room to rent on her own on, like, the 2nd floor next to, like, a shop with the Soho. That's where, like, the red, the green, the blue, the white lights appear, like in the trailers. So every time she goes to sleep, and now this is where we get to the meat of the story. And it's gonna get a little bit confusing, so I'm really gonna try my best to, like, bring it to you, tell you how I feel. Every time she goes to sleep. And it's funny because she hints at the movie. She's like, if I could live anywhere, it'd be here in London in the 1960s. Well, guess what, guys? She gets her wish. So be careful what you wish for, because it does happen good and bad. Every time she goes to sleep, she dreams or she visions or she embodies or she transports back the past of this girl known as Sandy, played by Anna Taylor-Joy. And Anna Taylor-Joy, just want to touch upon in a second. She is a phenomenal actress. Queen's Gambit, which is amazing. Split, Glass, as well as New Mutants, which a lot of people didn't like. I personally did. Anna Taylor-Joy is, like, coming up. You know, she is definitely coming up. So I thought she played the role of Sandy perfect, because the role of Sandy, she's like this fearless, confident, sexy nightlife woman that wants, like, visions and dreams to become a singer. She wants to be a wannabe single in London. So that's what Sandy is. And I feel like when they first transport in the mirrors, she does this, like in the trailers. The first scene where they transport, it's so cool because she meets this guy played by Matt Smith with his jack that can kind of help her in her gigs to become, like, a singer. You know how, like, in the back in the 1960s, you have to find a manager, you know, you have to get signed on in gigs, people have to try out. So that's what she does. And I love the beginning part because Ellie doesn't know, like, she's like, oh my gosh, like, I'm in this new girl's body. I can see what she's doing. I can see what she's feeling and thinking. And it does, she knows what she's feeling because she's in her body. Like, I don't want to ruin anything, but if you see the movie, you know what I mean. She feels what Sandy's. So that whole, the first scene, the dance scene, the time they're meeting each other, the use of mirrors is awesome, as well as when Jack and Sandy are also dancing in the ball, because imagine like this. So they're dancing, and then it's Mackenzie's character, Ellie, and then it switches over to Sandy. And it's so cool because they play through that for the rest of the movie. And I'll explain more in the later scenes. But I just thought it was great use of mirrors, as well as both of them of the actress Sis, with one character, which is Jack, played by Matt Smith. But every time like the mirror scenes or the intertwining, now this only happens in the beginning, this much like content, but I really love how they showed it to us as the viewer, that every time they intertwine, it's the mirror scene, which is Ellie's like looking at like Sandy, but Ellie doesn't copy her thing because she's looking everywhere else. So she's like, wow, like I can't believe I'm in this, like she's in this good graces goddess woman that I can like get so much information from, or I can help in my own personal career. And it's pretty cool because both of the vision scenes, as well as Sandy's character and Eloise's character, which her real name is Eloise in the story, but call her Ellie, they intertwine, like they're going on the same path. They got the same obstacles, same like demons, or same like fears, and so it works well in a combination with the movie structure. And then every time when they're in the dream sequence or the vision sequence, we only see Ellie in like the mirror, and I love that because I saw it 3 times, and then in the background I can see Ellie's because she goes into sleep with her bedrobe and she's dancing with Jack in the bedrobe too, but to us we know it's Sandy, but showing it to the viewer it's like Ellie and Sandy, like when he twines. And that was such good use of camera work, and I do commend like the production team for doing that, because that was so cool what they did. That was so different. They could have like put effects, but they didn't, because in behind the scenes they actually, I searched it up, they actually intertwined. They were right there. I just love that. So we do see more of Sandy, of Anya Taylor-Joy. We only see Ellie through the mirrors. But let me tell you this, quickly it goes up, quickly it can go down. And this is where we get into like the second part of the movie, or like act 2. And I don't want to say it's like cycle and repeat, because it's a good cycle and repeat. So every time she has a vision, she has to go back to school, she has to live her day life. So it's basically vision, real life, vision, real life. Not that the vision is not real life, but I'm just saying as a different connection, so for you to understand. So vision, now she has to wake up and go to school and stuff. So after a few nights of Anna Taylor-Joy and Max's character getting along, making out, nightlife, you know, singing, dancing, all that romantic shit, like Thomas and Mackenzie, Ellie has to like live life. And it's funny and interesting, and here's what I'm gonna do, a little side note, because this is what hit me the most about this movie. The reason is, and I feel like, is because Ellie starts embodying some of these things that Sandy does. Her quirkiness, her confidence. To be honest with you, Ellie, before the visions, she's a little timid, she's shy, she's quirky. I feel like she's a little vulnerable, like with her voice, especially coming from a rural area into the city. It could be a lot for somebody, and I'm not saying that it is a lot, but I'm just saying for her, from what the movie showed us, it really felt like she was like timid. She's like, oh, but as soon as she embodies Sandy's character, her look starts to change, her confidence, her charisma, the things she talks about, the things she does in her schoolwork, like she gets ideas about the dresses, she changes her hair, she buys new clothes, her music and taste changes, and like she gains a lot of confidence for that. And I really love that, because this might be a stretch for the movie, but this is what really got me like emotionally sentimental, like connection wise. It felt like, because I know what it feels like coming from a rural area into like a city, trying to do your best, and like being on YouTube, people be like, oh, and this is weird, a lot of people are like, you're not gonna make it, like you can't do that. And I know exactly what Ellie feels, because she didn't get that room to rent for nothing. She got it because her roommates were being mean to her. And I thought that was the cliche too. I'm like, come on, like you had girlfriends in the dorm that were mean to her, like Jacosta, I forgot the actress name. I mean, she played that part perfection, but it's like she was mean to her so bad that it's like, damn, like come on, cliche, like come on, we've seen that in other movies where the main character gets bullied and ends up, I don't want to say end up doing good, but you know how usually those movies work. So I really felt that, because I know what it's like to come from like a weird place, trying to like put your own spin on it, because she designs her own clothes once she gets to London, and a lot of people pick on her. So to me, I really understand where she's coming from. Like for me, movies is the escape, and so I felt like Ellie in the beginning, she just loved going to sleep. She just wants to envision Sandy, like she wants to get close to her. She feels where she's coming from, and she takes a lot of that in her real life. People start noticing her, and it changes her. So that's why I'm just like, I know what it feels like, because it felt like to me that if I was Ellie, I would have felt that Sandy was like not a perfect version of me, but maybe a better version of me that I can learn a couple of things from, like the confidence, the fearless fashion, the like going for whatever you want and ambitions. And so I really felt like Ellie took that to heart, because she starts changing in the movie, which is awesome. That's like her quick arc, and that's why I got emotional. That's why I felt like there was a connection, because I know what it feels like the people, the guys that I would look into my life, and this is so very different, and I'm really sorry. It's like Jamie Dornan from 50 Shades, Hayden Christensen in Star Wars, and I was gonna say Chris Brown before the Rihanna thing, you know, like, oh, and Zac Efron, like these guys that I admire. And like if I could just like maybe have like a few, like exactly what Ellie did, like be in like their shoes and just see what they were going through, their confidence, it's like of course I would feel that. And I just love that Ellie, like she transforms, but quickly as it can go up, quickly it goes down. And that's when I said before, the cycle of vision, real life, because then there's one nightmare scene which is not a nightmare scene, but it really shows, then it gets really sinister, it gets really dark, it's really terrifying. And now we're starting to end the second act and go into the third act. But the nightmare scene, the reason why I want to bridge that gap, because everything's good, then it's the nightmare scene, and you see a lot of like bad things happen in London, and like you see it from her eyes, and it's kind of scary. But it's so cool, because remember when I told you they were trading places? They do that again in this film, but instead it's now that Ellie's talking, she's wearing the same clothing. And so it's so cool how they use the switching places, like the characters between Thomas and Mackenzie and Anna Taylor-Joy, because it's the same scene exactly when they cut it to the guy who's like talking. He's like, do you need something, babes? And then they cut it to Thomas and Mackenzie in the same dress, the red dress, and then another guy talks, and then it's Anna Taylor-Joy. So I thought that was great use of cinematography because it's really different. You know, the way like body switching, we usually see it in a different way. And so the nightmare scene, yeah, it's just a little crazy because she starts leaving because she's like, I'm Ellie. And this is what Ellie feels like. Oh, this is when I like, this isn't what I want to see. So she starts leaving it. And I thought it was a great use in the movie because she opens the door. She's like, oh, I'm going to wake up now. But it doesn't do that. When she wakes up the door, it just skips that part in the night and it goes into like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I'm just using as a reference. And it's so cool because she sees Sandy's character, like, I don't want to say struggling without ruining too much, but then that's what I'm saying. They switch places and like she stands up. She's like in her place. She's like, freak this. Like, I want to be in Sandy's place, like talking to Jack or whatever's going on. And she's just like, what do you want? Like, that is so cool. And I just love how they use that because Ellie shows its own because she's like, no, I want the dream to end. But it just skips to like the next scene, which is the nighttime. And then this is when we go into Act 3. And without even giving, I can't even talk about it because there's so many good surprises. But I just want to say this. Act 3 involves around, there's a Halloween scene, which I can see why this movie's marketed towards Halloween. Not because of the killing stuff, but now it starts introducing the horror elements, the bloody stuff, the jump scares, as well as the more psychological thrillers. And her powers come into full effect and manifest. Now, we don't know if it's like schizophrenia or mental health or if that's her real powers come into full play. But all I can tell you that, yeah, it is very much the third act is very divisive, but I can't even talk about it. But I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I love everything, the visuals, the color, the soundtrack, every time they do the 1960 music, because I have some of them on repeat right now throughout the day. Like some of the soundtrack I really love, and I like house music. I love house music, but to me, come on, I love romance. I love like the nightlife. I mean, I have the LED lights, so to me, I really connected with this movie so much because the visuals, the colors, the romantic stuff, the sinister stuff. Even though it does go a little dark, a lot of people think it's a scary film. I wouldn't say it's a scary film. It does have a lot of horror elements to it, so I can see why they would say it's a scary film. But I stand by what I said before. This is a psychological thriller, romantic movie with horror elements added to it. I just love everything, especially the vision scenes, the 1960s. They have so much detail, minuscule. It's like the drinks, she wants a Vespa. It's like the costumes, the clothing, the nightlife, the scenery. I love everything about this. And the pacing of the movie, I never felt like it slowed down. I never wanted to go to the bathroom because I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss something important. That's why I watched it 3 times. I don't know. One of the songs that stood out to me was Downtown, played by Anna Taylor-Joy in the slow tempo. I just thought that was so methodically, sexily slow. So was Anna Taylor-Joy because she can sing. So I don't know, guys. Like, I'm really liking this movie a lot. And like the downtown scene was amazing. Now, the only thing I thought it was cliche was the being girlfriends. I'm like, come on, guys. You guys are gonna be mean to this girl. I get it. She's from a rural area, from the countryside, and she makes her own clothes, and you guys are picking her on for that. Like, come on. The movie could have done better, but I'm glad how the movie kind of ended up. The last 30 minutes, I'm just like, but the last 10, I'm just, okay, this is fine. The romance with the real life with the guy, I get it. It's 1960s, and in the modern era, she does meet a guy, and he is African American. Yes, I would be lying to you if I say if it wasn't cliche. A guy in the real life trying to help the main character out, which is a girl's like, I got you. I can listen for you. It's this horror movie. I can do whatever you want. Like, we've seen it before in Unborn and none of the scary movies. You guys know what I'm talking about, but I did like it how he was African American because Thomas and Mackenzie, she's like pale. So I really like that there was an African American, and unfortunately, he's like the only one that I saw. Everyone else is mostly tan, brown, white. Nah, I'm brown too, but it's like, bro, come on. Like, you gotta incorporate like more black people. Like, you know, I want to see kind of like my friends in there, and I didn't. Another great, perfect date night movie, as well as Another Woman That Women Will Love. But I guess what it really boils down to, if you like this movie, if you like the story elements to it, and then on top of that, if you want to think this is a great movie, if you like the 1960s vibe, as well as the colors accompanied with the soundtrack, because all those things are like what made this movie for me. I really connected to this movie just like I explained previous. And I'm making my year for 2021 best movies, and I would, right now, this is on one of the lists, because I just really, I don't know, guys, like, it's been a while since I had to go back to the theaters to watch the same movie. Like, it's been a while. The last time I did that was Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I don't think, yeah, it had to be that. No, After We Fell, sorry. Interesting / intrigued movie. But honestly, guys, that's gonna be everything for me today. Hope you have a great day, and let me know if you ever need anything. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing so you stay up to date with the movie reviews. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video, and I'll see you next week. Take care.